Finally! Oh yeah, and that too. Update. So, this is all squeaky clean, thanks to the welder that I hired, who also blasted this, or actually I think he scrubbed it in a chemical bath. Yes, I'm not going to say he chickened out, because that's not quite accurate, but he kind of did. What I needed, right, which was this bit over here and this bit over here, while keeping this seal, because that's part of the bell housing, and this seal as well, is a bit more complex than we thought. Which, again, I don't blame him for chickening out because of that. So the problem is there's... you see in there, I remove my finger, there's like a bubble there, kind of a thing. That is for this screw hole, which is one of the many screws going into the bell housing. Kind of important. And if I or somebody else just cut this entire unit, which I need to do because of these bolts, and this piece that needs to be, extant over here, I'm going to compromise that seal, and it's going to require more than just, I just need to X, Y, or Z. So my solution is to buy another one of these. And another one of these is coming. And so one of these we're going to cut like so, up until this point, where the bottom part of this, like this all down here, will just be exposed, but it doesn't need to be sealed up or anything, because this is just the other side of these structures, which do need to be sealed, obviously. So that will be all exposed. One of these pieces, one of the two, is going to be cut as such so that it can be welded, match this shape, welded so that this is just kind of flush. And then the other one, because one of these is I know I'm being confusing, one of these is going to be cut so that it's not a complete sealed sump, in order to preserve the stuff on this firewall. The other one will be cut to be a complete sump, including, these bits, and then this will be shaved off. That will be welded to this open-bottomed piece. And between two oil pans, we will make one. Now, I ordered another one of these on eBay. Was it cheap? No, not really, but it wasn't that expensive. Kind of disappointing, because these Miata oil pans are like $120 or $150 on eBay. A Mazda 323 or MX-3, essentially the front-wheel drive version of this engine, they're like $40-$50. A lot simpler. They don't have this bit, and things of that nature. And I'm pretty sure it's not aluminum. It's just like steel, I suppose, and it's a lot thinner. So, I was thinking for a second, hey, maybe because the cool thing, or perhaps the aggravating thing, is on those, this seal is, as far as I can tell, the same. no seal over here because obviously transmission is different in a front-wheel drive car. And the deep bit of the pan is up here, which is what I want. But, not having a seal for the transmission is kind of not a good idea. So I'm stuck with what I have to work with and putting a great deal of hope into my brother's grinder, which is somewhere around here. My brother is way more messy than me. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I'm putting a great deal of trust in that. He says he could do it. The welder guy said, oh yeah, you could do that. So I'm putting a lot of trust in these folks to do some precision cutting and precision welding. And maybe at the end of this all, I'll have a oil pan that will fit in my car. We will see. Until then, waiting for another pan to show up from eBay. Until then, there's something else I can do. Something I've been dreading to do. Wiring. Clayton, you don't know pain. Finally. Oh yeah, and that too. And I'm sick. But, not fourth or fifth day of being sick. I'm not so sick that I can't work on the car, so yes, this jumble of spaghetti is the beginning of the wiring harness. Me sorting it out, that is. Really, this is just a couple of notes to myself. Here is the harness for the fuel pump. Yellow is actually just for the fuel gauge, but I'll just unravel it from the rest anyway, just for backup and also to kind of teach myself how this all works. The blue and red one is the one I really want because that obviously tells the system to turn on the fuel pump. Everything else back here, which is mostly so far before getting to those bits, is just taillights and various sensors and things that I'm not going to need. So, kind of this junction, which carries on, splits off. You have the fuel pump stuff, some other stuff, and then this bit is to all of the taillights. Now, the multicolored wires are easy enough to understand, but it's the grounds that are really getting me. It's like, okay, yes, I understand that you need to ground stuff. What I don't understand is how much grounding do I need? Is it too much? Is it not enough? So, from what I've learned, just kind of tinkering around, is that these 4 grounds are for the lights. They go underneath this wad, and there's a few examples of this that I've found so far, is some splices for ground wires. And essentially, with the exception of like 1 or 2, they all just end up over on this ground, which I have aptly already labeled another ground. So, with that, and given that I'm not going to use these anyway, I'm just going to cut them and figure out more properly what ground is needed a bit later. Yeah, I may be shooting myself in the foot, but, it's not like I am lacking in spare wiring that I'm going to need to do this, that, and the other in order to make this thing work. So, yeah, I sound terrible, but, this is what I'm doing today. I'm getting my vitamin D in the process. Maybe keep myself from being sick. Anyway, I'm going to keep doing this now. I also don't drink. My brother does. Yes, this wiring harness is a nightmare. Which is why I'm working on it at night. Next on the agenda is disconnecting this diagnostic port, which, I just told you, but it says so right there. I'm also feeling better. Thanks for asking. And yes, disconnecting this from this is going to be a forthcoming ever-living hell. So we shall see how far I can get tonight. Well, there is some semblance of sanity here. This is the diagnostic port. It is wrapped individually, apart from all this stuff that I don't need. In case you were wondering, all this that I don't need is... I honestly don't remember, but I don't need it. Let me do the oh yeah, that's all. Headlights and things, which I don't need. So this I do need. It is individually wrapped, which makes my life slightly easier until I get to this kerfuffle. Day 5,000 of this wiring job, and still I'm plucking at it. It is now very, very, very nice outside, as in very hot. That's how long I've been at this. Not really. Where I'm at, yes. As it turns out, I don't need most of this fuse box, but I do need these. And this is possibly a pro tip. I'm finding this out as I'm going along. These three thick blue wires coming out of here, which daisy chain off of one, that I believe is how the ECU and the electronic systems that come with the Miata get their power. Through this fuse, activated by this wire, which is one of the wires that is dependent on the key. So what I'm doing is, actually, I yeeted this over another one to see if it would work. I'm trying to get this connector out without chopping it because I want to be civilized occasionally. As you can see, I've done a lot of chopping, but, I think for this occasion, because I actually need this, I have to be a little more delicate here. Otherwise, it is going swimmingly. I haven't really touched anything over here because this is all for the sensors. Over here was the light system, which I've mostly taken out of this wiring loom, and other computer, that's the computer terminal, that's the air door, that's the main computer terminal, that's the diagnostic port, this is the main computer terminal. I have not done a video for most of this process because I thought, well, surely there's Miata videos online. There actually aren't. But look, Miata has got to be the most common malaise and pre-malaise Mazda in existence at this point. I'm pretty sure there's documentation on all this. One way or the other, just ask the 15-year-olds that run the Facebook forum, and you'll get abuse as an answer, and then maybe your answer, because they just joshin'. But yes, that is the progress that I am having. I'm having progress, and when I'm done, I think I'll take you on a rundown of what I've got here, and what I need. And, yeah. Until then, see you later. Just a long and crazy goose chase to find out that in the middle there, black with a red stripe, that connector, which is stock, is exactly the same as a very similar connector, because it's exactly the same, that is on the Miata's system. It's this. Same wire. I think the one on Tomo's is just old because it doesn't have this bit. But yeah, it's the same. I'm not entirely sure how the other connector gets its power. I assume from a fuse on the stock engine. But yes, that is a compatibility item. The only downside is the Miata has a clutch inhibitor system where it won't engage the starter unless the clutch is pushed in, like most cars from, I don't know, the late 80s to the present. Tomo actually didn't have that. I always assumed that I needed to do that, but according to the wiring diagrams, it actually doesn't have that. So, um, I'm just going to keep it as is. All the Miata forms say if you want to bypass that, just freaking bypass it or hardwire the two wires that are involved. It's literally like a little switch that it's in there. I'm not going to go in there right now. It's a little switch that is attached to the clutch pedal. It looks like a pain in the ass to try and retrofit onto that clutch pedal on that CB2 Capella. So I'm not going to do that. And so I'm just going to roll with it. And hope the car doesn't catch fire. There are many moments where I'm like, is the car going to catch fire? I have a non-zero chance and probability, but that kind of stuff keeps me up at night, so I shan't think about it anymore. I think I'm done. I think that is my wiring loom. Famous last words, I know, but later I may find I missed something. But that's a problem for later, Lake. This here is most of the wiring loom I've discarded. Let me just briefly go through what I believe I need here. So you have your air intake door on the right, diagnostic port on the left. That's the long lines that you see here. That there is the relay for the fuel pump. It does other things as well, and I left that mostly undisturbed, but from my understanding, that is the main relay that turns on the fuel pump. You're going to see a lot of loose wires here. Like, for instance, this, I think, is the check engine light. Tachometer. The tachometer and just other various things. Let's see. That actually goes to the fuel pump. That's the power wire to the fuel, which is most of these are just kind of loose at the moment because they are going to various the green tags you see. They go to various excuse me, gauges on the gauge cluster, and I'm going to be interfacing those like a cave person to the old electrical system, which to my knowledge I've left mostly intact and should work. I mean, apart from obviously starting the engine, which can't, the stock way that the engine would start would not work with this. It's a little too complicated, or a lot too complicated. But the accessories all should work because I didn't touch them, didn't fiddle with them at all. So fuses. Every fuse in this box, and this is, by the way, another wiring loom I need to tackle, but it's a lot simpler because that's just a bunch of extra sensor hookups, and then the battery, which in a Miata is in the trunk, and that's going to be a little bit of a pain in the butt to cut and hook up the power from the battery to that fuse box. That is to say, it's not going to be a pain in the butt at all. It's going to be just cut and mount. But so fuses, yes, that fuse box for sure. I believe every fuse is needed. Although not every wire connected to every fuse is per se needed. This fuse box, one that ordinarily goes under the dash, you only need these 4. Or when I say you, I mean me. I only need these 4. and they're mostly just kind of engine fuses, extra things, turn on the fuel pump with the key, things like that. Something in the future that I'm going to have to figure out is this needs to hook up somehow to the ignition. And that means I'm going to have to open Tomo up the dashboard. So do these and that. Because that is when you turn the key, that turns on the power to the fuel system and other items. Moving on, we have these are the terminals for the ECU. Most of the ECU is needed. Again, I mean, like, we're talking like things like the cruise control, the AC unit, all of the headlights, and running lights, things like that. I mean, would I like cruise control and AC in the future? Sure, but not right now. It's just a little, it's like this job is complicated enough for little old me. I can leave the problem of retrofitting Miata components, which is not as hard as it could be. Retrofitting those into Tomo is going to be a project for the future. So yes, that was the ECU terminal. These are fuses that fuse hookups for that, which also hooks up to other things. Not everything is connected. Again, it's mostly like the other thing that I just wholesale ripped out of the system was the cooling fans, because I'm going to be retrofitting a Miata cooling fan onto the stock radiator, which is not big enough for two cooling fans. It's just narrower. So I'm just going to have the one that was already, when I bought this Miata, hardwired to the battery with like a very unsophisticated just plug it in at your feet method. Is very funny, but nevertheless, yeah, I'm actually going to make it a little more sophisticated. I'll have a button, but still that system will completely bypass the stock very complex cooling system. Like, hey, it gets too hot, let's turn on this fan. Hey, we have this, let's turn on this fan. It's like, instead I'll just have, my monkey brain will tell me turn on this fan. Not sure exactly here, what's yet to be revealed is if, I hook up my custom check engine light, and it's just going to always throw codes because there's stuff missing from the system. I'm not sure. I hope not, but, I wouldn't be surprised if it would. And in that case, it would just be like, fuck it. And who needs a check engine light? Let's move along here, and I am in the light, of course. Move along here. This is for the igniter. These are various points on the engine for various sensors, and these are some more sensors. This is unraveled, and this isn't, because there was actually just already, from the car that I got, just like these hookups that had been chopped, a very long time ago, because the copper leads are all corroded and such. So, I just finished the job in that case, just like tracing this stuff and then chopping it out of the entire system. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to be, I need power, and in order to have power, I need to put this all back together in order to really find out how much I screwed up. So that will have to be for a later episode, and we will wait. We will find out, won't we? But yes, this was several days' work. I mean, not full days, but as often as I could spare the time. Doesn't look like much, but I assure you, this is quite an accomplishment.